Hey everyone, Bree Bragg here from the Kokomo Post, and today we have a very special guest with us, comedian Ryan Niemiller. How's it going, Ryan?
I'm doing well, Bree. How are you?
I'm really well. I'm excited to be talking with you today and get to learn a little bit more about you and about how you are going to be coming here to the Honeywell Center.
That is correct. Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's our second or third attempt to make the show happen.
This is probably a COVID situation then?
Yes, it's been, it's not unique to this one. My 2020 calendar mostly became my 2021 calendar. But I'm glad it was able to actually happen. I'm very excited.
I've been watching lots of clips of you on YouTube lately. Funny guy, I must say. I think people, if they haven't got to see you yet, if they're going to see you for the first time, they're going to be impressed with your show. They're going to have a good time. And you know what else is really cool is that you're a fellow Hoosier.
Yeah, I grew up in a little town called DeMott, Indiana, up in the region. I'm an old region rat from growing up. And then when I was doing America's Got Talent and all that, I had lived in Indianapolis for like the last 5 or 6 years there. So Kokomo is a place I've performed way more than most people can say they've performed in Kokomo. So I've been there a lot over the years.
So
very familiar.
Performed at here in Kokomo.
It's funny. Most of the places don't exist anymore. There was a comedy club that was there for a while. My career is built on doing, Moose Lodges and Elks Lodges and American Legions and stuff like that. That is that is a very pure Midwest way to do shows for sure.
That you're right. That is a very Midwest way. But what's really cool is that you took the Midwest way and you took it out to the West Coast, which we're super curious about that. For people that maybe don't know you yet, you were a finalist in America's Got Talent. You were in the 14th season. Number 3, you were third place, which is a huge deal. So my first question I have for you is, what was it like being on America's Got Talent?
It's so little surreal, even a couple of years later that it happened, because that was always the goal. Like when I started really deciding that like comedy was going to be the career I was going for, I always felt AGT was going to be the best avenue for me because not only do you get to show what you can do, they're also really good at letting you tell your story. Because it took me 5 years of trying to get on the show before they finally were like, yes, you can come audition on the show. But then the fact that it just went as well as it did, I couldn't have asked for a better script for how everything kind of just went boom and just fell into place. And I was ready and they were finally ready. And it was a great experience. And I'm very, very humbled and grateful that it happened. And especially the support I got from Indiana. I think most people were like, when I was on the show, they'd be surprised to see me like walking around Indiana because I think a lot of people just have like the perception that, oh, he says he's from Indiana, but he probably has lived in LA for the last 10 years. And that's what no, I was still going to Kroger and people would see me there and pop through. So no, it was very cool to have everyone from home be so supportive as well.
I think that's just a Hoosier thing in general. Like just the Hoosier state is so close and everybody really cheers on each other. So you mentioned that this was a 5-year process. So talk with us a little bit about that, because I don't know, unless you're in the entertainment industry, if people understand that.
Yeah, there's so much more to it. For comedy, I can say specifically, there's a kind of an old joke in this business where it takes 15 years to become an overnight sensation. Yes. That's essentially what it is. So as far as most people were concerned, he showed up on AGT, he did really well, and now look at him, he came out of nowhere, he has a career. I think I was 13 years into comedy when everything was all said and done. So like it's a long road. And, I told these stories on the show too, but doing gigs where I'd have to sleep in my car because they don't give you a hotel, and you can't, if you buy a hotel, you've lost money. So now you just sleep in the car and you're eating at gas stations all the time. And even with the AGT process, just showing up for like the cattle call auditions and then feeling you did well and it didn't, they didn't notice it, and then getting a little closer. And like, even now that I've quote unquote made it, you still get told no a lot because there's bigger things I want to do now. Like you want to move to the next step. And people are like, nah, we've not yet. So you have to be very comfortable with being told no for sure.
That's so true. It's a huge reality check, I will say. And it'll knock you down a few levels. If you need to be humbled, you need need to audition for one of these shows.
Yeah, I'd say the first year that I went in, and I think a lot of people do this, I was so cocky because I felt I was really coming into my own. Like, I'm funny now, I'm crushing at all these shows. You only have to do 90 seconds. I've been doing an hour. Like, 90 seconds is easy. Yeah, I go in there all smug, thinking I'm going to nail it, and then you're like, "Oh, this is much different." I wish I had prepared, but you learn from it. That's like the cool thing. You either get mad about it, or you figure out like, "Oh, I still have work to do." You learn from it, and then luckily, I was too dumb to quit, and 5 years later, it worked out.
That's awesome. So in the 5-year span that you kept trying to do America's Got Talent, were you auditioning for any of the other well-known competition shows?
No, because most of those are singing or like very dangerous.
Yes.
It's like being flipped or having knives thrown at you. And I'm going to let you know, Brie, I'm kind of a wuss. I'm very comfortable talking in front of people, which most people are scared of.
Yeah.
Everything else, though, is terrifying to me.
You spent quite a bit of time with the folks there at AGT, whether that was producers, whether that was other contestants, but also with the judges. So, we're intrigued. We want to know, what were the judges like? And is Simon Cowell as awful as everybody thinks he is?
Is Simon Cowell as awful as everyone thinks he is? My answer would be different than others, depending on who you ask. Yeah. But Simon liked me. So no, I think Simon's amazing. What I learned with Simon, if you go in thinking he's going to be a monster, you're going to make him a monster. Obviously, it was intimidating because as far as that show goes, America's going to vote based on what Simon says. He's kind of looked as the expert on everything. I've said this to his, I would say this to his face again. Simon doesn't know anything about stand-up comedy. It's not his wheelhouse. He does. He found One Direction, he's not finding comics, so it's not his thing. I just went in there going, okay, I'm going to do what I know I can do. He's either going to like it or not. And we ended up getting along great. I think he respected the fact that I wasn't so scared of him.
Like you said, the entertainment world is maybe not what people expect. It's a lot of hard work, and there's a lot that people don't see that happens behind the scenes. Is there anything you can tell us about whether it was in the finals of AGT or the auditioning process? What's some behind the scenes stuff that people probably wouldn't think about that you experienced that you want to share?
Probably the hardest thing about it, the actual performance in front of being on the stage and in front of the millions of people live. For me, that was the easy part. The really hard part about being on the shows and it made me thankful in hindsight that I didn't get it the first time I tried, because I knowing what I know now, I would have crumbled. It's super stressful how fast your life changes because of that show. The initial 2 rounds of that show are taped ahead of time. So you're obviously trying to qualify for the live shows. That's kind of the prize of those. You tape the first round in March. The judge cuts were in April. Obviously, I knew they went really well. I was there. I know what happened. Yeah. But you're not allowed to talk about it yet, until it actually airs. So being in this weird mental state where your life's about to change in a huge way, but you have to wait and you can't tell anyone about it. That was honestly the most stressful part, because you have to be mentally ready, because as soon as my audition aired, it was instant. I wish I would have got a video of it, but all my social media was immediately blowing up with messages. Yeah. Like my Facebook page, it took 8 hours for messages to stop just being constant. To my computer. And it, like I said, it's fast. I know the exact 7 minutes when my life changed. Yeah. Huge. It's and that can wear on you. And some of the contestants and it's not to talk bad about them because it's tough, but you could tell for some of them, they were oh, I got to audition. This is fun. And then when all this attention came on them, it's oh, this is a lot, And I have a very unique look too, having this disability like I do. So it's not I could just put on, a hoodie and go incognito. And
I appreciate that. You haven't made it big time enough that you've stopped shopping at Kroger. I love to hear that.
Oh, I'm a frugal man. I'm a frugal man. That's the thing. The first things that I did after AGT, where I started getting on the road and finally, I'm headlining clubs and finally making money for the first time in my career. First thing I did was pay off my student loan, pay off my car. That was my big sexy purchases. I was like, if this all goes away, I want to be at zero. I just don't want to be in debt anymore. That's it.
Like we mentioned before, you made it to the final three, a huge deal. What do you think made you so successful in the reality competition show?
How just like genuinely excited I was and how willing I was to be vulnerable. Like that's a big part of that show. I think some people, they get on there and they're not necessarily willing to kind of lay it all out there and talk about like the hard stuff and be genuine, kind of like just show that out there. And for me, I think the other big thing too was just you learn to, I don't want to say game the system because like that's what makes it sound a little seedier than it is. Luckily, I'm good friends with a couple of comics who did really well on the show before, so they were able to give me advice kind of as the process was going. Like every time that camera was on me, I was trying to do something. I didn't want to like draw attention from other people or make a complete jackass of myself or anything. But if that camera's on you, you can do something. It's not just the 90 seconds to 2 minutes that you actually get to perform. It's the interviews with the judges before you go out there. It's the way you do your entrances during the live shows. It's how you talk to Terry Crews during the interviews. I think that was kind of my wheelhouse. Some of them were like amazing singers, for instance, like voices of an angel that I'm jealous that I will never have that voice. But they don't talk to people for a living. I talk to people for a living. So I kind of had that advantage.
So Ryan, tell us about your style of comedy, because like you mentioned just a little bit ago, you've waved your disability into it quite a bit. People know you because you are so vulnerable and you talk a lot about that. Was that a hard thing to do? And what made you decide to put yourself out there that way?
I don't want to say it was hard. It wasn't easy either, but like, if you want to do something like I'm doing, if you want to be in like the comedy business and you have such a noticeable disability, you kind of have to, it's sort of, the way I always like that, because if anyone ever kind of complained, quote unquote, about like, oh, he talks about his disability too much. I'm like, well, it's my life. This isn't like a gimmick. This isn't puppetry. This isn't special effects. I have a disability. If there's a Black comic on stage and they talk about the experiences of being Black, like, well, of course, because that's their life. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that because that's not my experience. This is what my experience is. So it's important to talk about, when I do my live shows and when people come to see the show in Wabash coming up, it's not all that. It's not going to be, 2 hours of just that. But it's important to me to talk about because it is my actual experience. Like getting all the feedback I got from individuals with disabilities or parents of children with disabilities, having them be like, hey, thank you for actually talking about it and not being scared. I didn't want to go on the show. I thought it would have been a disservice to myself and that community if I would have done something like go on AGT and then talk about cats the entire time. Like I had an opportunity. I had this platform. And for me, I do get to perform in front of a lot of people. And a lot of people are now, on board with it. And then, I'm not going to say it's the sole reason I do this, but like hearing kids be like, oh, well, I have a disability and he has a disability. Yeah. And look, he's on TV and he's doing cool stuff. So I don't have to only be this if I don't want to. Funny is funny, no matter what you're talking about, like some people are going to like it. Some people are not going to like it, but that's everybody. That's personal taste, Absolutely. Even the most successful comics in the world are probably disliked by half the world, because we all have different viewpoints. So this is just, I think it's fun and this is my wheelhouse and it's what I deal with. So I'm going to talk about it.
And you kind of have a punchline at this point, right? You call yourself the Cripple Threat.
Yes, that was the old pro wrestling name. Actually, that was going to be the
I'm glad that you mentioned that because I was doing my research and within that research, I see that comedy wasn't the first thing you wanted to do. You wanted to be a pro wrestler.
Yep. And that is 100% true. That's not just to impress the ladies out there. That is an actual thing that I wanted to do. Yeah, I always thought that was going to be the goal. That's why I got into improv. I was like, oh, that's going to help me be a pro wrestler. And then I trained to be a wrestler for about 3 months. And it turns out it's very hard. It's not a lot of people are going to be like, oh, it's fake. I'm like, no, it's scripted. Those are two very different things. because my body hurt so bad doing the fake stuff. So
you went into this. You were actually training to do this.
Yep. I did for about 3 months. Yep. In college. That's kind of what I was doing while I was still doing theater. I had a couple buddies who reached out to me. They had their own ring set up in Southern Indiana, because they were kind of independent wrestlers around there. And they're like, hey, we saw you wanted to do this. If you want to come down.
That's incredible. So 2 questions here. 1, why? Why did you want to be a wrestler? And 2, when did you decide that's it? I'm not going to be a pro wrestler. I'm a comedian.
The why, I've always been fascinated with pro wrestling. It was something, not to get, I don't want to get too sappy about it, but my childhood wasn't always, it was a little volatile at times. I talked about on IGT, my dad was an alcoholic. We grew up kind of poor. I'm an old trailer park kid. But watching wrestling every week, that was kind of my escape. It's so big and over the top, and like by design, like that's the thing. It's nobody fights in pink underwear. That's not like a way, but in that world, it makes perfect sense. And it was such a great combination for me that I fell in love with it, because like I've always loved sports. I'm a huge like Chicago Cubs fan. I'm a huge Miami Dolphins fan. I'm a huge LA Clippers fan. Like I love quote unquote real sports. Yeah. And I've also loved performing and theater, and pro wrestling is kind of the combination of both. I didn't think it was going to be easy. I didn't think it was going to be that hard. That was sort of where I was at, because your body's not designed, even if everyone's in on it, your body's not designed to throw itself onto a hard canvas over and over and over again. And after about 3 months of that, like my back was just a mess, and I was like, my back hurts now just waking up. So I figure if doing a pleasant interview is too much for my body, maybe beating myself up is not going to do it. And I always kind of had in the back of my mind that I would want to try stand up. I was like, wrestling probably will never work out the way that like Dream Ryan thinks it's going to, but I'm actually pretty good at this comedy thing. So let's go ahead and do that. And then the cool thing is, now through comedy, vicariously, I get to do wrestling stuff. I got to do the thing with Chris Jericho on America's Got Talent.
That's so cool.
I'm friends with a bunch of wrestlers now, because wrestlers are huge comedy fans. So like, that's kind of, it's the best of both worlds.
So tell me, what can people expect from your show at the Honeywell Center?
It's going to be a good time. I'm excited to get back home. This is going to be one of my first shows back home. I live in Southern California now, so I did make the move. I'm excited. It's a fun time. I will say it's a little different than what you saw on AGT. The gloves are off a little bit, so to speak. It can be a little bit more real on that.
Sure.
Not vulgar. I don't want to give you the wrong idea.
Not vulgar, just a little more oomph, right?
Exactly. A little more oomph. That's a nice way to put it. Ryan Niemiller with more oomph. I always do like a meet and greet. Like it's very cool for me to like meet fans who like, and especially Hoosier fans. Like I did get so much love from back home. Like even though I've never have directly lived in Wabash, but I feel like I'm from there. That's kind of how Indiana is, like all the small towns can all be very similar in that regard. And I'm a legit small town kid. DeMont was 3,000 people, and I grew up in a trailer. I'm a regular old, I went through all the struggles of that. So for me, especially, I get so excited to get to like meet the fans from there who saw me kind of as one of their own, because I am one of your own. So it's a very fun night. It's going to be a good time. And I think after the last year, we all can use more laughter right now. I think that's, political party aside, all your views on that. I think we all can agree this was a pretty hard year. Yeah. So let's just have a good time and get some laughs in.
You are from Indiana. You are a Hoosier. From your other interviews, I've heard you talk about, you love being a Hoosier and you love your home. It also can be hindering in some sort of way, because Indiana is not exactly the mecca of entertainment,
Correct.
But not exactly Hollywood over here. So what kind of advice do you have for other people with big dreams, just like you, who maybe feel the same way? They're stuck in a small city. They're stuck in a small town, small state. What's your advice?
The one of the good things now about how the entertainment business works with the advent of things like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. Like, a lot of people say this stuff is silly, but I got America's Got Talent living in Indianapolis. You're not going to casually see Brad Pitt walking around Indianapolis. It's just not how, and that's one of the appeals of Indiana as well, is that you're not dealing with that. People always think I'm pandering, but this is 100% true. I would rather perform in a place like Wabash than I would LA.
Why is that?
Well, because it's real people. Sort of what it is. Like I have a lot of fun in LA. I don't want to like make this like they suck, we rule kind of thing. But in LA, people can see casually movie stars and like all these huge stars all the time. When you're in a place like Wabash, those are like real people who work real jobs and work hard. And when they come to a comedy show, maybe it's their one date night that they get in 6 months, So for like them, they're so appreciative. I feel like a huge star. I feel like I'm important because they're just so happy that you're there. And I love that energy. LA is great, but they can see comedy and concerts 7 days a week and see the biggest stars in the world. So for them, they're kind of like, this is fun, but whatever. Wherever you perform can be a big place. It's about like what you're doing. And, I cultivated my career. I started in LA. I was there for 2 years. I really became a great comic when I was living in Indiana and starting to tour around and doing, going to small dive bars in the middle of Kentucky. Like that's how you earn your stripes. So enjoy the journey.
We know that you're going to be here at the Honeywell Center. What are the details on that? When is that happening? And I know that we talked about your comedy, but are there any kind of spoilers?
You don't want to give too many spoilers. That's you don't want to show how the sausage is made all the time. The show is September 30th. The Honeywell Center has been very supportive of it. They're very excited to make it happen. They were one of the places that made it a priority to like, no, we're getting this rescheduled. We're getting it done, so.
Well, we are looking so forward to seeing you here at the Honeywell Center. I hope that everybody gets a ticket so they can come see you. You are so right. People need laughs in the year of 2021.
I need laughs as a performer. I think a lot of people don't even understand that. Like, this is what I love and what I love to do. And I haven't got to do it that much the last year or so. So it's just as, exciting for us. Like I need to make people laugh as much as people need to laugh. So I'm super excited to be coming back home. For people who want to follow your journey some more beyond your show here at the Honeywell Center in Wabash, Indiana, what are you working on right now? What do you have going on and where can they follow your journey? So right now, the biggest thing is kind of getting back on tour, getting that back working again. So you can find the tour schedules and all that at cripplethreat.com. And then social media, I'm on all the things you could imagine. It's Cripple Threat 8. The next thing I want to do, I want to start getting in TV and movie stuff. Like that's another big thing for me. I love acting. It's what I've always, that's what my background was with theater. Getting on AGT with the disability was a huge deal to get like on television and like be able to tell that story. And I want to get on TV. I want to be like in a sitcom. I'd love to be in a movie. I want to be someone who, despite having a disability, is still good at that. So that's the next goal.
All right, Ryan, I appreciate you taking out your time so much to talk to us today. This has been so much fun. I'm looking forward to your show at the Honeywell Center. I hope that you have a packed auditorium there for people to laugh and enjoy and to just come together again in the year of 2020 after this crazy year. Is there anything else you would like to say to the community of Indiana and to Wabash and all the people that are coming out to your show or thinking about coming out to your show?
I'll keep it kind of short and simple. I'm excited to see you, and I love you all. It's the quote unquote again the real people that made me get third place. It's the people who voted for me, and it's that kind of community, and it's the people back home. So thank you guys so much. I'm very grateful for everything I have. Now let's have some fun on September 30th.
Love it.